What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the next video and learning MySQL. My name is QDS Dani and you guys watching my channel Crywood. Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about MySQL constraints. So you might hear constraint in MySQL. So just to let you guys know that the constraint is a type of restraint, and if you guys believe me, I'm totally kidding. I'm just joking. So the difference, constraint in normal English word, constraint is a word that refers to for something that limits our freedom of action. For example, we hear a lot about we have constraint in finishing the, say for example, building, our assignment projects, that tells us how shortage of time our if you go in a building, how the funding limits the quality of the project. So that's constraint. And I'm just kidding about the restraint. Restraint is just someone if restraining himself or herself, if someone's holding himself back, controlling limiting itself. In just normal dictionary, he or she is said to have restraining himself or herself. Anything that controls the action of someone is then referred to as a restraining factor. So we put this out of the way. There is no such thing as restraint in MySQL. We have something called constraint. As now we know that the constraint is kind of limitation or restrictions. Similarly, MySQL constraints are used to define some rules that limit the data that can go into the table. And just to let you, with the help of constraint, we can basically maintain accuracy and integrity of the data inside the table. And there is two kinds of constraint inside the MySQL. There is a table level constraint, and the table level is the constraint which are applied to the whole table and limits the whole data, are called table level constraint. And the next one we're going to see is the column level constraint. So the column level constraint. So the table level constraint are applied only to the particular column of the table that limits only column data. The column level constraint, as we say, that the constraint which are applied only to a particular column of a table, and this one's only limit the column data. These are called column level constraint. And there are 6 constraints in MySQL. So the first ones we're going to see is not null, or if I'm going to put it in uppercase, not null. So not null, that ensures that the column does not accept the null values. And the second ones we're going to see is a check, and this one's ensures that the columns accepts values within the specific range of values. And the next one going to see is unique. And unique ones defines that the column does not accept duplicate values. And the next one, which we're going to use a lot in our MySQL, is going to be a primary key, or sometime you're going to see the PK. So the primary key, it uniquely identifies a row in a table. It is a combination of not null and unique constraints. So when we combine the unique constraint and not null with this primary key, it identifies, for example, we have a student table. So the primary of the student table is going to be ID. That's what we're going to do, the primary ID. And this is going to be the combination of unique, because if the first student is going to be, say, the number 1, the second student is not going to be the number 1. It's going to be number 2. It's going to be number 100. It's going to be number, say, 300, 200, whatever the number, but it's not going to be number 1. So you can, 2 rows can have the same unique number. And the second one that we say is that the primary key, as we said, that the primary key is uniquely identifies a row in the table. It is a combination of not null and unique values, so that our rows can be null. So when you're creating database and you're doing auto increment, our AI, so when we do auto increment, it means that it's going to update itself. in our database. Say for example, if you have a, as I said, the student table, and you assign a student ID or ID, whatever you want to put it there, and first to begin with the condition is that has to be unique. Second one is not null. You cannot leave it null, because as if you put it auto increment, then when you create in your real world live database, when the user is going to come and sign up your databases, so the first one is going to be assigned to yourself because you are the creator of the database, you have full admin rights. The second one is going to be according to your very close one, say your friend or associate at the time of creating your database. The third one, fourth one, fifth one going to be, say, to the manager or directors and all the people that you trust. As it goes there, then when your website comes in, and in the real world, say for example, if the first user going to come and sign up to the 100th of the unique primary key, then the second one is going to be 101, 102 all the way, because every time the user is going to come in, it's going to increment one, because that's what it says, auto increment. So as I said, this has to be first to begin with unique, because all of this number is going to be unique. The second one is not null. You cannot put the primary key as null. It's impossible to put the primary key as null. And the fifth one is going to be, we're going to see, is the foreign key. And sometimes foreign key, as you guys going to see, as FK. So now abbreviation of the PK is a primary key. That's we're going to see a lot in our databases and our tables. The next one is going to be the foreign key. So foreign key is like a primary key constraint only, but it's uniquely identified row in another table. Say for example, if you have a customer and the customers have a ID, customers have a name, customers have a, say for example, address, first name, last name, blah blah blah, and you can put all whatever you put it here, because this ID is PK, primary key. And for example, you're going to come here and customer order, for example, or you can put an order. So and the order have a order ID, the second one's gonna be order whatever here, then the second one's gonna be date. For example, what is the date, and if it's paid or not, if it's the order is active or not active or suspended. And the last one is what we guys gonna do is that you're gonna put a customer ID. So if you assign here the customer ID here, ID, and this one's going to be customer ID. Okay, so now if you guys see the connection between these two tables, because if I put it here and if I put it here, okay, so we have here we have a customer table and we have an order table. And the first one, the customer table, have a PK of the customer ID. This one identifies the customer. If it's a customer is Yazdani, our customer is Azad, our customers anyone or Michael, George, Joblo, whatever, then it identifies the customer's name, address, DOB, date of birth. You can put whatever you guys want put here for if you want to know a lot about the customers. And this one's going to be, say for example, date of birth, and you can get as much as information about the customers as possible. And but the first thing is that, as I said here, primary key or PK is going to be unique and it has to be not null. So you cannot assign here, come here and put the primary, this one of the order is customer ID, because you cannot do that. And you can put a customer ID, but you can only put a customer ID, and this customer ID is going to be foreign key. So now this customer ID is we're going to put it this way, is and now we're going to put a customer FK. So this one are making sure that there is no breakage between this table and this table. The customer ID, which is the primary key, is going to be the foreign key of another table. That's how it goes there. our foreign key of one table is going to be the customer ID of the other table. That's how vice versa you can say it. So the order ID, then you guys can put this primary key, say for example order ID, you can put it, say for example delivery. Even in the delivery, you guys can delivery, then you guys can put the delivery ID, for example delivery ID, and then this table is going to be the primary key because this one's unique. And then you guys going to come here and put an order ID, and then you guys going to put the customer ID, So now this, every time you refer to the customer ID, it means you guys mean this one. So now this is a primary key, there is a customer ID here which is the foreign key, and there is a customer ID here which is also the foreign key. So these two tables you can, if you go for ERD, entity relationship diagram, if you put it there, then this customer ID is going to find its way here to the customer ID of the order table, going to be the customer. So the foreign key, the customer ID, which is the foreign key in the order table, is going to be the customer ID, and which is the primary key of the customer table. So now you guys should see the linkage here. That's what it's called, RDBMS, relationship database management system. So this one's going to be relational. Now you guys going to see the relation between all these tables. The first one table is going to be the customer. It has a customer ID which is the primary key, then the order table, and there's going to be the customer ID, but this is not going to be the primary key because the order table has its own customer ID, order ID, and here the customer ID we can put it by all means, but this is going to be the foreign key, and the foreign key of one table is going to be the primary key of another table. And here we have a delivery, and now we have a delivery ID. This is going to be the primary key of the delivery, and keep in mind there is two conditions. The first one has to be unique, the second one is going to be not null, because you cannot leave it null. Maybe you can put a, say for example active, not active, null. Some of them maybe you can put a name, for example you don't want name. Maybe for privacy reasons you want to don't want to get customers date of birth, because some customers object to that. You cannot get it, you can leave this empty, but this is going to be null. So maybe you can do a lot of things null. Maybe you can put even address null, but you cannot leave the customer ID null. So it has to be not null, NN, and keep in mind sometimes you're going to see this one as NN. So we're going to see this as NN, it means not null. And the second one has to be unique, because all of this customer has to be unique. Same goes with the order ID, and same goes with the delivery ID. And now you're going to see that we have an order ID in one database by all means, but this order ID find its way here, the order ID of primary key of the, so this order ID find its way here at the order table. An order table have a primary key PK, and this delivery table have a order ID which is going to be the foreign key FK. So here is have a customer ID is also going to be the FK. So through this one you guys going to see there is a relationship, but if you have a pencil, you guys can take a pencil and can put it here to connect this one to there, and you guys can connect this one to this one. So these tables now effectively have a relation here with this one, and this table have a relationship with both of them. So this is called RDBMS. Our in the future videos we're going to see the ERD, entity relational diagram. That's what we're going to see, ERD diagram, because we have to connect these ones. We have logical diagrams, and I'm going to show you logical diagrams, and we have physical diagrams, and we're going to see the physical diagrams as well. Physical diagrams is when you guys type here, say for example create a database, that we already seen that one. Say for example create database XYZ. Say for example XYZ. This is going to be the physical. So we have already seen this one, but we are more interested about the entity, because we're going to see all of this as an entity, and we're going to relate this one, all this table to each other. So, and next, the last one is going to be the default. So we put a default. And what's the default constraint? It ensures that the column sets a default value for empty records. So the default, it ensures that the column sets a default value for empty records. So there's a lot of empty records. We're gonna see it's we're gonna put default. And so with the table, there are times you don't want something to say, for example, if it's active. Say for example, if active, you put a default as 1. So our maybe default as 0. So why we put default as 0 means default is not active. You can put a 1. So when the customers place order, the order is going to be straight away as 1 because this one means true. It's active. And for example, the customer calls in and say I don't want to cancel, I want to cancel, then you can go, the active one goes to 0 because the 1 was default and now it's 0. 0 means it's not true. So when you're creating database, make sure you guys always put if the the order is active or not active. So and when you put a default as 1, it means that's the order is active. So when you create your database and when you're going to select all your tables and whatever you want to see in your database, make sure you put a condition as 1, condition as active, and active equal to 1, because it's gonna, if you want to see all the active orders of the customers. But if you see all the cancelled ones, or if you see all the deleted ones, all the whatever is not active, then you're going to see that you should put your order active, and you should fetch the data from the customer as a 0, because it's going to show all the databases that are not active. You can do this with the default. So the default is very useful. So we have effectively 6 constraints. Just want to say constraint, is not restraint. So because I was kidding with you guys before, so don't worry about that. So constraint is a kind of limitation or restriction that we're going to put it on our tables. And as I said, there is 2 types of constraint: the table level constraint and the column level constraints. So the table ones, the constraint which are applied to the whole table or and limits the whole table data, are called top level constraint. And the second one is the column level constraints, which are applied only to particular column of table and limits the column data. So this is called table level constraint. So these are constraints in MySQL. So now we see that there are 6 constraints. So the not null, you check, unique, primary key, foreign key, and defaults. And the next video we're going to show you how we're going to create our database here. And once we create our database, how we're going to create our tables. And we go from there with the MySQL. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, Gryowood. If you guys have any question or comment, leave in the comment box. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye.